Hi everyone, it's Phil here from Ashland Leather, and I've got a bunch of, we're calling them wild foxes today to show you. Let's take a little preview at what's shipping out today. Up first is a red chamois Johnny the Fox, which is a new item for us. I have a blue Rockford Johnny the Fox, a marbled Garnet shell Cordovan Johnny the Fox, color 8 Croc print Johnny the Fox, a Western floral whiskey Johnny the Fox, a whiskey gator Johnny the Fox, marbled cigar, marbled magenta, marbled blue, a caramel 1940s calf, and a red 1940s calf. Our new color number 4 shell Cordovan with color 4 interior Johnny the Fox, color 8 Chrome XL Johnny the Fox, natural Chrome XL Tony the Ant, natural Chrome XL Fat Herbie, color 8 all reverse Fat Herbie, a natural Lancaster Fat Herbie, color 8 reverse Frank the Enforcer, raw shell Cordovan key case, a reverse ultraviolet key fob, black metal Chicago comb with a black reverse sheath, and a color 8 Chrome XL Valet tray. All right, there's so many new and different Johnny the Foxes here in the batch today, and a lot of these items are special requests that customers make that we try to accommodate. So this first one up here is a perfect example. This customer really wanted a red Johnny the Fox, so we offered them the idea of the color 8 Chrome XL Johnny the Fox, which is kind of red, but it's obviously much darker. This customer was looking for something a little bit more vibrant. And it turns out we actually had some extra leather in sort of my secret stash of leathers that I find interesting that we were able to use for this customer's request. So this is a leather from Horween, and this leather is called chamois. And chamois is what would be more generically termed in the industry as an oiled nubuck. And a nubuck means that the grain has been lightly buffed. So it has like a suede look to it. And it's also been oiled, so we oil that suede, and typically on an oil nubuck, like the chamois from Horween, you're able to see a little bit of tracking in the leather. This one is mild tracking. It's not tracking a whole lot. And when I say tracking, I'm talking about when you change the direction of the nap of the suede. Sometimes you can get it to, like, you can write your name on it, in it. And that often is very dramatic on a suede or an oiled nubuck like this. But what's really cool about the chamois from Horween is they're actually finishing the grain side of the leather. So a lot of suede leathers and oiled suedes are actually finished for the backside. They actually split off the grain of the leather, and they're using the byproduct, which is called a split, to make a suede. The Horween stuff is full grain, and these tend to get very, very nice the more they're worn. So this is the first one we've ever made on the Johnny the Fox. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Can't wait for this customer to have it. I know it's for a special gift. So here's another unique Johnny the Fox, and I think we showed this leather one other time. I believe this is the second time I've actually seen this in a wallet. Now this is a blue Rockford leather from Horween. It's also a veg tan. It's a little bit softer and a little bit more drapey when compared to something like the Dublin leather, but it is very similar in characteristic because it is a veg tan leather. The other difference that I observe on the Rockford is it's a little bit more vibrant. It's like a brighter blue as opposed to the cobalt blue Dublin, which is much deeper and darker. We seem to not be able to get as much of the vibrant shades on the Dublin because of the wax layer that is applied to the finish of the Dublin. It tends to darken everything up a bit, but man, check out this blue Rockford. It's really, really interesting. It has really nice grain character as well, but just the vibrance of it and the more of a shiny luster, I think what stands out to me on this one. All right, more unique stuff from the wild foxes today. The guys in the shop wanted me to call the video Wild Foxes, and I think it's really funny, but also kind of appropriate because all the stuff in here is, most of it's like brand new or things I've never seen, including this marbled garnet shell Johnny the Fox. And this is what the marbled garnet looks like on the back. And it actually doesn't look like most other marbled shells that we see. What I'm thinking is happening is because the garnet is one of the lighter shades already of the shell Cordovan, when we scrape away and perform the marbling process on the garnet, it's much more subtle. than all the other things like a black marbled, where you're scraping away black and it contrasts more towards a natural shell color. It's kind of light to begin with the Garnet, so you don't see that dramatic high and low in color. It kind of just is like a subtle, natural sort of whiskey shade now. I see little bits of streaks here, little bits of marbling that are subtle. Perhaps not worth marbling this, but it is a little bit different, and it's good to see it. It's nice to try things to see how they're going to turn out. I like the subtle look of this. For me personally, I like a really crazy contrast, but I think a lot of people like the more subtle version, like this marbled Garnet shell. I think in the intro here, I called this color 8 Croc, but this is Cigar, it looks like. Croc print shell Cordovan. And the Cigar is a little less red when you compare it to something like the color 8. This one is just more of a true brown, more like a dark brown, not very much burgundy to it. It's a very nice shade, and I like the textured shells, just to sort of spice it up a bit. Check out the interior of this one. This is actually reverse Cigar, which is how I came to remember that we've got the Cigar on the outside. The reverse Cigar shells are kind of green, and I think that's because the dyes that they're using to apply to the shell side of the leather, it's more of like a greenish brown. So when they dip the leather to even out the color, some of that greenish brown migrates to the unintended reverse side of the shell. And that's why this has this really nice subtle greenish tan. I think is really cool. And we have all these random dye marks as well. So this is a truly unique Johnny the Fox, and more unique ones to come. So again, more unique wallets. This is a Western whiskey shell Cordovan. And I really like, this is my favorite texture that Horween applies to all the shells or any leathers. I think it just reminds me of hand tooling that is often found in Western wear. And sort of saddle makers will do this look, but they'll hand tool it in. This texture has actually been impressed into the shell itself. So it has not been hand tooled with individual tools. It's just one big pattern that's stamped into the shell. And I like the texture of it. I just think it's a really interesting look, especially on like more of like a brown color like this, like the whiskey. It's very much a Western vibe in this color. What's also really interesting on this is that same idea of the reverse interior, but this is a whiskey reverse. So if you're ever curious to see what the reverse side of the whiskey looks like, it's sort of like the natural. It's pretty light in color, little bits of green, but that is the whiskey reverse shell Cordovan. And another whiskey texture here. This is a Croc whiskey shell, which is really interesting as well. You notice on this one has a really good representation of all the different texture that we see in that pattern. It's a little bit more coarse on the left. See a little bit of those larger scales on the left side, or on the right there are those finer ones. So this is as big as they get and as small as they get. And on this one, it's kind of cool because you get to see them both in one shot, which we don't often see. So that's a really cool whiskey texture there. Again, with a whiskey reverse interior. Now we're getting crazy, or crazier. This is a marbled Cigar shell, which I think I've personally only seen a couple of these. This is my favorite marbled Cigar that I've seen so far. And this tends to look more similar to how I see a lot of the marbled shells coming from the tannery recently. It's this more subtle context, as opposed to the shells that I like where it goes light to dark immediately. This one has like a nice subtle range of color from that Cigar shell color, which is sort of like a brown, greenish brown. And it ranges down to more of like an orangey yellow tan that is very satisfying. This contrast is very unique and special. I really like the marbled Cigar. I don't think this is a color that's going to be produced often from Horween. And on the inside, again, more reverse Cigar. These were special requests from a really special customer. I don't think we'll be able to make these again, but I really wanted to show all of you all these unique different wallets because these might be a once in a lifetime kind of thing. All right, speaking of once in a lifetime, this is marbled Magenta, which I believe there's only been one or two at the most marbled Magenta shells made ever. And I think even Magenta itself, there's probably only been 10 or less of the Magenta shells made in total. So this is a really special piece that, you know, you're the first one to see here. I really like the Magenta color itself. It's sort of like a vibrant pink, like a very vivid light purple pink color. Magenta is probably the most accurate way to describe it. It's very magenta. And when we marble it, we get the contrast from that magenta shade down to more of those light natural colors of the shell, more of like a tan shade. And the contrast between them, I think, is really cool. And on top of that, it visually appears to have color texture to it, but it is very smooth, just like every other shell, which I think makes this really unique. It's smooth and glassy and mirror-like in texture, in the feel of the texture, but it has this like visual color that appears more textured than it actually is. I think that is a really interesting thing to experience. So this is, man, that's a really cool Johnny the Fox. I like that dramatic contrast from light to dark immediately. And on the interior, what do we have here? This is, I believe this is color 8 reverse shell Cordovan. These appear to be as light of the color 8s that we tend to see on the reverse shell Cordovan. So man, this is a great, unique Johnny the Fox. Now I have 2 other items here. And at first glance, this might look like black marbled shell Cordovan, but these 2 wallets here are very unique. These are marbled blue shell. So if you're ever curious to see what your shells look like underneath all the intense blue stains, that's what it looks like. And I noticed that it kind of has the same vibe as the black marbled, so I don't know if this is worth doing. It does appear a little bit more blue than the black marbled stuff, but you get the same, I feel like you get the same effect, where you get this darker, like dark green, forest green, black to an orange on the black marble. This one is just slightly less black and a little bit more blue. I think it's a similar vibe, but I wanted to show you the 2 here because these are the only 2 that we're probably ever going to make. And I like kind of the blue orange contrast. That's something I haven't seen before. So these are really unique. And on the inside here too, we've combined the marbled blue shell with a black reverse on the inside. And I'm just a huge fan of the reverse shell in general, but on these Johnny the Foxes, the range of color on the reverse shells, and just the random dye marks like on this card holder here, I just think is super interesting. So a couple of these going out today that may never be seen again. All right, speaking of never seen again, this one I'm sighing because I'm kind of bummed out that I'll never be able to make one of these again. And that's because this is the 1940s calf. The calf skin that was tanned in 1941 that Horween had sitting around for the last 80 years or so. And we were able to pick up a few skins from that old batch and make a couple special wallets. And this one is super special. So this is sort of the more blonde color of the 1940s calf. There's also this more of like a color 4 orangey red color. I think I prefer the blonde. It just reminds me of natural shell, which I'm a huge fan of. But what's great about this particular Johnny the Fox, and what makes me sad, is that the calf skin from 1941 is super thin. So if you take a look here on the inside, that is about as thin as it gets for any piece of leather. And those are just inherently the thickness of the particular calf skins we have. So it lent itself perfectly for Johnny the Fox because we need thin pieces of leather for the inside of this one. And I just couldn't be more thrilled with how this turned out. And it makes me so sad that I can't do more because I can't go back in time and make and hold more leather for 80 years. So this is a very unique and special wallet. You should be proud to have this one in your collection. Whoever's picking this one up, man, what a special wallet. And again, this is another 1941 calf skin from Horween that sort of just sat there for years. And this is the other color. And what I like about this one, when you see the skins themselves, or before I cut them, I suppose, they're so old, they look faded. So the centers are more of this sort of reddish, orangey color. It's like a red-brown, which is really cool. But on the skin itself, it sort of reminds me of like a sunburst guitar, like where the edges are darker or lighter. That's what these skins look like. It's colored differently on the edges, probably just from sitting around for so long. So this is really cool. Check out the interior. this 1941 calf. And again, like I wish I could make more of these, but there's only so much leather. So a couple special Johnny the Foxes going out today. All right, another special one, but you've seen this before probably if you've been watching these videos. This is our brand new offering that we made a limited run of the gorgeous color number 4 shell Cordovan on the exterior. And we have a new color number 4 horsehide interior to pair on this Johnny the Fox. And color 4 on the outside, color 4 on the inside. I've been feeling like the color matching on the exterior and interior are quite compelling to me recently, although we do get a lot of people that want to mix it up, make something extra special for themselves. But I think there's something special about the cleanliness of the aesthetic here, where you have the same color on the outside and inside. So KZ, you got this Johnny the Fox coming your way. Thank you so much for supporting us. And this is a color number 8 Chrome XL Johnny the Fox, and we've paired this with a mock horsehide interior. I actually like the way this mock horsehide pairs with the color 8 very, very much. I think that's a cool look. I also like the mock with something like the intense blue shell Cordovan. I think it really sets off the exterior color. I think it's beautiful too. And the color 8 Chrome XL that we've been cutting from for all of our different wallets is super smooth and has such a great rich feel and a bright shiny luster. Check that out. So the Chrome XL that's coming out of Horween right now is really beautiful as well. Can't wait for you to have this one. Here we have a Frank the Enforcer in color 8 reverse shell Cordovan. And that's got a really nice Horween ink stamp on the back. We try to cut the ink stamp into that pattern piece every time we make these and anytime we can. On the front side, we get a little bit of an opportunity on the color 8 reverse to show some of these random die marks that I think are totally cool. And on the front side, we get an opportunity here on the reverse shell Cordovan to show you some of those color 8 die marks that I think are very interesting. Let's move on here to some smaller accessories. And this is one of my absolute favorite leathers. This is the raw shell Cordovan on our vault key holder. The raw shell Cordovan is a leather that I had dreamt of for years. We were trying to get something that developed or had the potential to develop the most patina possible. So the way that the raw shell Cordovan wears in is absolutely remarkable. It starts off kind of dull and very light in color, but the more that it's worn, we'll notice that the color deepens and darkens, but the luster starts to develop its own little shine that makes the raw shell Cordovan totally special. And I mentioned how much I like the color of the magenta shell Cordovan. The magenta shells and the ultraviolet use a very similar dye, very similar stain. Now I love the way that that stain looks on the reverse side of the shell Cordovan. So this is a key fob in ultraviolet reverse with that ink stamp on the back. This is a really cool key fob. I have another special item for you. This is a Chicago comb, and this actually is the black metal version that I use every day. I actually use this very sim one. Obviously mine is not brand new, but it goes in this black reverse shell Cordovan comb sheath. So we've got a couple of these going out. I think people are picking these up for Father's Day gifts, which I think this is a great Father's Day gift. Some people are turned off a little bit by the metal comb. I like it because it's very rigid and it's going to last me forever. But you might be interested to check out the carbon fiber comb as well, because they're much less expensive and a little bit more familiar to most people. So if you're picking up a gift for your dad, that carbon fiber or the black metal comb might be a really good gift. And the last accessory for the day, this is, again, another color 8 Chrome XL piece on our Valet tray. And I really like the Valet trays. I use these all over the workshop, but I also use them all over my home. It's really great for just, throwing your wallet or your phone inside. I use it at my front door. So I just keep all my stuff, dump my pockets in there, keep myself organized. And again, the Chrome XL is very nice. On the Valet trays, we spend a little bit of extra effort to stain in on the reverse side of the Chrome XL and finish it with a heavy resin finish to make it nice and sealed off. A little bit more of a clean look. All right, we have a Fat Herbie in the natural Lancaster. This is the wallet that I've been wearing. Gosh, I think it's probably been almost 130 days or so. I stopped keeping count at 100. But you can see on the left, brand new, on the right, about 100 days old. The luster has developed quite significantly on the Lancaster. It's got a bit more of like a wet look now. A little bit more of a nice gloss and a face to it, as opposed to when it's brand new. It's a little bit more of a matte finish. It's kind of dull. It doesn't have much shine at all. So if you're into patina developing in terms of luster, I think this is a great wallet. I've actually had a couple people apply some oils to their Lancaster, and this stuff soaks up water and finish and oil like a sponge. So I might try some experiments on my Fat Herbie on camera here to give you guys a demo of what you can do to change up your leather. This Lancaster might be a nice way to do that. A nice way to give you sort of a blank canvas so you can try out and finish your wallet to your own liking. Here's a Fat Herbie in color 8 all reverse. And man, this one has a ton of character. And it almost looks like a marbled shell in the back with the way that this die has given this a little bit of color in the center, a little bit more contrast to the rest of the reverse shell. We've also cut the ink stamp in the top center there. And on the inside, we also have another ink stamp on the left. I really like the reverse shell Cordovan. It sometimes feels weird to flip it and reverse it, but what's great about the reverse, you get that random unique character, but this also ages very, very nicely. It kind of ages like the raw shell Cordovan, where it gets brighter, shinier, and actually gets darker in color. So if you're into patina and more of a unique look, I think this all reverse Cordovan is a really good option. So here's a cleaner look for you. This is a Fat Herbie in natural chrome excel, and the natural chrome excel is the most popular chrome excel color in the world right now. You can find this all over the place in footwear and shoes and boots, and we make all of our wallet styles in it. So I really like the natural chrome excel on the Fat Herbie. It's a great clean look. The chrome excel also is combination tan, so it has a veg tan character to it, so it will mold and conform around anything you put inside. And with the card layout on the inside of Fat Herbie, this one is the best for a back pocket because it lays really flat. You got more content spread out over more area. Last up today, this is one of our most popular items right now. It's the little brother to the Fat Herbie. This is the Tony the Ant in natural chrome excel. Again, natural chrome excel, super popular, great neutral color. Sort of like a taupe, maybe like a little bit more vibrant than like a standard taupe, a little darker, a little bit more golden. But we had requests. We originally started making the Fat Herbie as our first wallet style. But some people were a little turned off with the size of it. Although it does fit in every pocket, people are a little worried just because it's different. They're not used to a size this big. It's about the size of a passport. So we had people asking for the same aesthetic, the Fat Herbie, where we have this little swoop in the center to allow you easily to access your cash. We incorporated that to a smaller version and reoriented the cards on the inside. So we kept the same vibe, just slimmed it down a bit. So now we have some more of like a minimalist style on the Tony the Ant. And we specially pick thin horsehide pieces for the interior card slots here to keep the wallet a nice thickness. So a little bit of extra attention to detail to make this one work. But wow, so many unique Johnny the Foxes today. I know I'm a huge fan of the Herbie, but the Foxes are our best seller. People are most interested in that, and I wanted to give you a look at the 1940s calf for one last time because I really don't think we have any more leather to make more of these. So I hope you enjoyed checking these out for the first and last time. Really beautiful pieces, both in the blonde and I'm not sure what to call this, like a reddish color. So sad to see them go, but we're giving them to a good home. So thanks for checking these out with me. I'll see you again next time.